Hey guys, how you going? Welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel, and this is a bit of a detour from the usual content, but I just wanted to jump on here and I guess you could say give my 2 cents. I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time because it's been a big part of my, I wouldn't say career, just what I do in life. Now, a couple of days ago, Chris Stuckman, who is one of my biggest influences in terms of getting on YouTube, it was always Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, and the Flick Pick. I love just how different each of the three amigos were with their reviews and how they critiqued film. So much so that I definitely think, you know, Stuckman's a straight man, Jeremy and Flick Pick have a lot more of a looser attitude towards film criticism, but I love the three of them as a whole. And Chris Stuckman put up a video a couple of days ago. It wasn't a review of Madam Web. It was more or less going into the behind the scenes and how Hollywood operates, because for the longest time, Chris Stuckman no longer does a grading system on his videos when he does a review of films, but he does not review bad films anymore, because at the moment, he is currently in post-production of his horror film, Shelby Oaks, and I think it's one of those things where he's afraid of offending someone if he gives an honest review of a film, especially when he's trying to break into Hollywood. And the Critical Drinker, who most of you probably know on YouTube, put up his review of Madam Web, and it was the polar opposite. It went full force, did not hold back. But that is the Critical Drinker's shtick. He is a writer by trade, so he is a brilliant wordsmith and a funny wordsmith at that. And he even brought up what Chris Stuckman does and how Chris Stuckman operates now on YouTube. And it's raised this question, and a video I've been wanting to do for a while. Can you be an influencer and a film reviewer at the same time? Now, let me preface this. I despise the word influencer. Me and my mum joke and we just say we're influencers. Mum does some content creation here and there. Mum's an actress, a comedian by trade, and she does a bit of everything, much like me, just a bit of everything. Jack of all trades, master of fucking none. So again, I wanted to jump on here and just give my experience and just how I operate now. Because back in the day, I guess you could say I definitely was afraid to speak my honest opinion, give my real thoughts on a film that I had been invited to for, say, a premiere, a screening. And I've said it in a couple of reviews that, you know, guys, you know, I was invited to this, but I'm also going to give my honest opinion. I think that is very healthy, and I think it should be very healthy now. Given what Chris Stuckman does now, I think it's a bit unnecessary, but it's one of those things where, like, you do you, man, like, do what makes you happy, but I feel it's very unnecessary. I feel there is a way to give healthy criticism, and as long as you're not bashing and being mean and stuff like that, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're mean and just being a jackass, then yeah, like you kind of deserve to not get invited to these events or whatnot. And I'm one of those people where I get really anxious going to like influencer events or influencer events, whatever the hell you want to call it. And there's always, whenever there's a mandate and you have to have, you know, X amount of stories and main posts and stuff like that, use the proper hashtags, use the appropriate hashtags. I freak out. Like, I'm always like, oh my God, this is, ugh. And there are some studios that are very protective of that. But then there are some studios, case in point, like Netflix and Universal that I've worked with just recently that are so chill, so cool. And they're like, we want you to have your own voice. You do what sticks to your brand. Like, we don't want to tell you what to say, but obviously, like, you're here to promote this. So, you know, just do your thing. Whatever works for you. And I absolutely fucking love that. Like, case in point with Netflix, when I was flown over to Tokyo for the premiere of Rebel Moon, I still gave an honest review on what I thought of the film. And I definitely am looking forward to the part 2 of Rebel Moon. But at the same time, it wasn't what I had hoped it had been. But at the same time, you're like, dude, this is great. Like, I've been invited by Netflix. And there was no real brief in terms of what they expected in terms of content. And that's why I wanted to do the vlogs. I did my initial reaction when I got back from the premiere. And then when I probably gathered my thoughts, I did a review. And then case in point with Universal recently, working with them with Argyle at the Australian Open and, you know, dressing up as Henry Cavill's Argyle, going around the Australian Open. That was damn good fun. I then also got an invite to the premiere of the film. Chloe and I went along and I gave my honest thoughts. I definitely thought it could be a lot better, and it was a bit of a red herring with Henry Cavill's involvement in the film, and just the marketing in general just threw everyone off. It's pretty safe to say that's how it was. But I've heard some shock and horror stories. I'm not going to name names, just to protect certain people who are friends of mine. You know, there have been certain people that have been blacklisted for just giving a bit of a critique here and there, and they've only just had that blacklist lifted now. And it's just really it's this weird gray area now. I have been told by numerous people you can't be an influencer and a film reviewer at the same time. And I am by no means a critic. Like anything, I just love talking about film. I love watching new films and talking about them. I'm like the biggest nerd ever, and I love hearing what you guys have to say and what my friends have to say as well. And that's what I love about film. It's so subjective, and you just constantly keep that conversation going. And don't get me wrong, I have definitely taken on campaigns in the past, most notably when I had just the Cosplay Chris channel and not this YouTube channel, where I hadn't seen the particular film, but I've done a campaign around it and hyped it up, and the film hasn't been that great. And it's definitely one of those things where it's a learning experience, where the position I'm in now and with this channel, I'm having the absolute fucking time of my life, and I'm building this beautiful community. You guys are always just so sweet in the comments section. You're always recommending stuff. You're like, Chris, you got to check this out, check that out. If you like this, you like that. And you guys also just chime in and have conversations in the chat. And it's just like, it's so refreshing to see. And it's so liberating as well to be able to still go to these events, but also have an honest opinion. But at the same time, I'm not going to be a dick towards X, Y, and Z unless someone is asking for it and they have been a jackass behind the scenes, or just it's one of those things where they're just being nasty. I'm like, well, you're a bit of a dick, aren't you? But I always make sure my criticisms are fair, and I'm always trying to come from a place of understanding, but at the same time, hey, X, Y, and Z didn't work for me. This just didn't feel right. It's like when we did the Uncharted fan film last year. Like, obviously we got a lot of criticisms for that, but also a lot of praise, and that's the beauty of subjectivity. It just it comes and goes, like ebbs and flows. Like there are going to be people that love what you do, and then people are going to be like, you know, it wasn't for me. And you're like, fair call, man. Like, that's film. But the idea of, if you're a content creator, influencer, you know, when you do the whole thing of, what's going on, guys? So we are here at blah, 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 bling, 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 blah. I'm not the biggest fan of that. And I still love going to these events. Like, case in point, I have the premiere for Dune Part 2 in a couple of weeks' time, and I still not have seen Part 1. So I have it queued, ready to go, so I can play catch up. So then I know what to expect going into Part 2, and then also just give a proper critique of the film. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. Dune. For the longest time, I've wanted to see Part 1. And now that we've got the premiere for Part 2 coming up, I'm really keen. I'm excited. Like, visually, both films just look brilliant, but it's obviously a big commitment because these are big, epic, grandiose films. And there are going to be people there that will have no idea what's going on, and they just praise it no matter what. And I feel like it should be okay, more than okay, for you to go to these events, do these campaigns, hashtag ad, hashtag invited, all that jazz, and still just have an honest but fair critique of the film. There was a campaign I did last year for a film, and I had to do a verbal disclosure at the beginning, and it was, this video was sponsored by, and a lot of you will put the dots together. And I went back to my socials manager, because I have a socials manager that help with campaigns and stuff like that, and, you know, just try and work everything out. And I said, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't like this. This is not me. It's so like clinical and just structured, and I'm like, this it just doesn't feel like my voice. And they're like, we're sorry, you have to do it. It's like a verbal legal disclosure. I'm like, this is so there have been times where my arm has been twisted, where I've kind of got to do stuff, but for the most part, there are, like, majority of the time, these campaigns that are great. They're like, do what makes you happy, as long as you just have a couple of these key messages, but just do it in your way. Like, it's like copying your mate's homework. Yeah, just change it a bit, just so the teacher won't notice, and that it's your voice. Look, I'm rambling on, but I think after seeing Chris Stuckman's video the other day and have him being such a big influence on me starting YouTube, and this will be 10 years since I've been on YouTube. So, like, it's crazy. And again, it's the three amigos. It's Stuckman, it's Johns, and it's the Flick Pick. And I love just how different each of them are. But I feel with how Stuckman's going at the moment, it's totally unnecessary. Dude, you can still have an honest opinion, make your movie, get it out there. It's one of those things where I've had people come up to me, and, like, when I've been in cosplay at a con, and they're not mean. They're like, oh, dude, if I may suggest, like, what would you think about X, Y, and Z next time? I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, cool. But if someone's going to come and be like, inaccurate, I'm like, okay, thanks. And it's the same if like you're in Hollywood and you're at a party and someone has seen you critique their movie, but you did it in a fair way, and they come and be like, hey man, I saw your review. Thank you. Next time I will know. And I definitely think it could be a case like that for Stuckman in the future. I would love him to go back to his grading system, his hilariosity reviews. I go back and binge watch them like there's no tomorrow. Like if I'm working on a custom collectible, Etsy orders, or like even editing like a video for this channel. It's just, I love that noise in the background because it was just that lightning in a bottle that he harnessed. And I just feel like it's just gone. And I just feel like he's lost his way, but in an unnecessary way. You don't need to be so careful, dude. And there are a lot of people that do the same. And I used to be one of those people. And reviewing films is definitely a muscle you have to keep flexing. And I love it. I wouldn't say like improving my skills, but definitely the more you talk about film, the easier it is to talk about film and understand the negatives and the positives and what works for you and what might not work for your audience, and say, this is why I suggest you wait for it to come out on streaming, or pay full fare and have a night out and watch that film. It's fucking awesome. So guys, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Biggest ramble ever. But again, I've been wanting to make this video for the longest time, and I think now because of Stuckman's video that came up the other day about Madam Web, even though it wasn't a review, it was more or less just about the behind the scenes. And then like you compare that to like Critical Drinker and just how things have shifted and how we are so content focused and hashtag ads and hashtag invited, gifted and stuff like that. There definitely is a balance that is allowed where you can still do all that, go to those events, go to those premieres and respect that and be grateful for it. But also, at the end of the day, if the film doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But you know, you're able to state that, but not be a dick about it. It's I've been sick of people telling me for the longest time for the last couple of years, no, you're either an influencer, which I hate that name, or you review films. It's not one or the other. But anyway, guys, thank you once again for watching and listening to me ramble on, and just thank you for being just a solid bunch of good people. Like it really is refreshing to see just how sweet all of you are. I actually am going to have a review up in a couple of days' time for a little underrated gem, comedy gem for that matter, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. A lot of you probably have heard of it, but some may not, and it just makes me chuffed. Just tickles me pink. And also look out for another home movie review this week. This time around, it's Michael Myers theme, so enjoy that. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.